So I teach a class at a university. I teach algebra, and I really love it, and I love teaching my students, and I think that...
Why?
Because when I'm up doing lectures or when I'm working with them one-on-one and I'm explaining math, I feel like I really can explain it well, and I can see where they are and what parts they are missing, and I can like fill in that gap.
So you can imagine how your inner being feels about you because it is identical.
What?
In other words, what you just described is what it's like for us. And these are the things that we want to point out to you. The reason that you like this mathematical experience is because the laws are solid and unequivocal, and they always test out no matter what. There's no variance from the perfect results. Is that right?
Part of it, yeah. There's also a lot of creativity in developing new theorems and all of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sort of like life. But what we're getting at is, as you teach the basics and you have the thrilling experience of watching your students discover them and apply them and get the results from them, standing in more and more confident places of asking for more and more applications of the laws of mathematics. Yeah.
That's really good.
Some really, really good bridges in that for humanity. As you take those mathematical laws and you speak with confidence your understanding of their stability and their unwavering beingness, and then you're able to awaken within someone else that knowledge, and then they are able to feel the power of what that knowledge can then bring to them in the application of it. There's a whole lot about law of attraction that's in that, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that until you said it just now. So how can I reconcile my love for teaching students and seeing those aha moments with the fact that I have to give them exams and grade them and then like mark things wrong?
Look at it this way. Your inner being knows where you are vibrationally in relationship to everything you want and calls you accordingly. In other words, your inner being knows what your path of least resistance is, and so knows where to call you. Often you don't know that. And that's when we say to you, it's good for you to be emotionally aware so that you can own where you are. If you're pretending that you are somewhere that you aren't, then you can't acknowledge any movement, not any real movement. And there's no satisfaction in it either. So there's nothing in the world off about knowing where you are in relationship to where you want to be. Just don't put the emphasis on where you are. Instead, let it be about where you're going. And you can do that with what you write around the grade or with the comments that you make once you are grading something. You can acknowledge, I can see real progress here. I can see that you grasped this. This will serve you really well. You're really on the right track here. I'm really pleased with what I see. More is going to open up to you. This is the way this always works. At first, it's more difficult to see each thing that makes sense to you. Then the next things get easier and easier and easier and easier. There isn't anything wrong with understanding where you are. In fact, it is essential because you are where you are, where you are, where you are on your way to where you want to be. Now, some of them, they're just there fulfilling requirements. Some of them don't have any passion for that, but you could help them to develop some passion in that as you start making the correlations between these laws of mathematics and the laws of the universe as you are understanding them to be, the consistency of them. We like to say there's not a shred of evidence to the contrary of what we teach. We'd like you to say that too. There's not a shred of evidence to the contrary of what's going on here in this classroom. A grasping of this is going to set you up for a successful life in all of these ways. First of all, it's going to draw focus from you. Next of all, the focus, once you get it, is going to feel really, really good to you. This is an exercise in empowerment. The application of what you will learn here will be varied with all of you, but it will be beneficial in every single case. You're going to like what you grasp here and how you apply it. And I'm going to revel in every step forward that you make. It can be a really fun experience for you and for them. You could say to them, I've learned not just from mathematics, but from mathematics, but I've learned through my life experience that my personal satisfaction really comes from having a desire and moving toward it. And when you're looking for a solution, which is a desire, and then you find a process where no matter what, you can move toward it, you're going to find such satisfaction in grasping this. And I would like you to know, you can say to your students, that nerdy as this sounds, and unwilling as many people are to accept this from me, your satisfaction is my satisfaction. I don't have some standard, it looks like it, that I'm wanting you to all accomplish, because you are all very different. You learn differently, you want differently, you grasp differently. It's your motion forward that I'm excited about.
Okay. So whenever I get a new class, there's always a mix of students. Some are very interactive and ask questions and show up. And then there's always some students who don't show up. I want to be able to reach all of them.
And they show up and don't show up for different reasons. Some of those who show up to show off. Some of those who show up out of a lackful consciousness that if they don't show up, they won't get it. There are several reasons why people show up. Some don't show up because they've already got it. Some don't show up because they don't think there's any hope of ever getting it. But in all of that, if you can take those categories of showing up or not showing up and make different categories of them, those who are under the influence of source energy and those who aren't, and you can see your singular intention every time you take the podium, every time you stand on the platform and address them. If you can remember that your dominant intention is to inspire the pile they're in. You want to inspire the pile they're in. You want to inspire them being under the influence of source pile. And how do you do that? By you being under the influence of source, by you being tuned in, tapped in, turned on, by you loving what you're doing, by you having fun with it all, by you reveling in the new discoveries that you find. You follow what we're getting at. You can't inspire somebody into the tuned in, tapped in, turned on pile unless you're there. So if you're worrying about why somebody's not showing up, you're not in that pile.
But if there's a pile of students or some students who don't show up because they are feeling like they're never going to get it, I want to be able to inspire them too. And I know that if you fall behind in math, it just gets more difficult. So like I want to inspire them, and I want them to know that they can make sense of it too.
You could teach any one of them from the beginning of addition and subtraction all the way to the most sophisticated mathematics in 1 year or less if you had their attention and they had your attention. Time is irrelevant. So that's a flawed belief that does not serve you or them.
What was the flawed belief?
That they'll get behind and they'll have a hard time catching up.
Oh.
Because all that's necessary is a desire. And so your work is to ignite their desire. And how do you ignite someone's desire? By igniting your own and not worrying about where theirs is. By not making assumptions that you have no way of really knowing. By not just throwing them in a basket and calling them such and such. That's how most of the world operates. If you do this, I'm going to put you in this pile. Now that you're in that pile, these are the things I expect of you. But if instead of that you'll say, oh, there's only two piles and one's tuned in, tapped in, turned on with source energy and one isn't, and you could be in any pile. In other words, we could have some fun here that could get you in that pile, and you could hear something that you've never heard before, not because you were at all the previous classes and because you got good marks on all of the previous quizzes, but because right now you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and what I just said made sense to you.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to do for them. And
it's what I want to inspire within them.
Yeah. But I know that if it starts to go to a place where they do get a couple low marks, or they have already gotten feeling overwhelmed.
Now you're basing what you're saying now on what you thought before you sat here. But now you've sat here and we've had this conversation, and now they got a low mark, but you wrote something on their paper that you've never written on their paper before, so now they're different than they've ever been before. So they got a low mark, and what did you write on their paper this time?
Need common denominator?
What did you write on their paper this time that you didn't write on their paper before we had this conversation? Good job. You're getting it. You got to know what you don't want before you can know what you do want. This is causing focus within you. I feel expectant of good things coming. I'm glad you're in this class. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we get to co-create together in this way.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel that when I'm interacting with them, I see behaviors that I think are hurting them. And
like what?
Like not asking questions, not coming for help if they don't understand something.
Say that to us. See us as that student and convey that to us.
I see what you were trying to do on your homework, and I know why you thought that might work, but there's this one part that's not clicking for you, and I would really like if you could meet with me so I could explain that part to you.
Sign me up.
But those students don't come.
Who would say no to that? Who would say no to that?
Several.
Do you really say that to them? Or did you just make that up just now?
I try to have that be.
You don't usually say that to them because your beliefs are in the way. They're not the ones that are showing up. The ones that need me the most are the ones that are coming the least, and the ones that need me the most aren't reaching out to me. Who's reaching out to me? The show-offs. Can you see what we're getting at? Is that you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, because you can't uplift someone to an attitude or a place unless you hold it about them. In other words, if you were a healer, we would encourage the sick people to stay away from you. Just kidding a little. In other words, they show up sick and you say, should have caught that earlier. We had the class on that last week, but you weren't there. Now look where you are. And you can't get there from there. Should have been there last week and you'd have got that part, but you weren't there. So now...
I don't really believe that. I know they all can catch up.
You know that. That's why we're messing with you here.
Okay.
But that's what you just said to us. You said the mathematical equivalent of that to us just now. No hope for you. You missed that.
All right.
And what you want to say is, doesn't matter where you are, you can get to where you want to be from wherever you are, and I'm here to make sure. And because I'm really good at this, I can see where you are. I can see where you are. And if you have any interest, I'm here for you. In fact, I live for this stuff. You kids that know it all, I'm not so interested in you. Well, you are. You're proud of all of them. You want to give all of them the benefit of the doubt. So you wake up in the morning and you feel eager to get up and you meditate. And you focus on your breathing or whatever it is that you do to quiet your mind. And you get insights that day. In fact, you get a sort of pre-announcement of what's going to happen in your classroom even. Because your inner being is out there ahead of you and knows every student is waking up. And some of them who woke up and weren't going to show up for class, wake up and show up for class because of the difference that you made during your meditation. That's the power of influence. And so you're all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you're feeling exhilarated about them. And when they come, they're readier maybe than they were otherwise. And then there's a co-creative dance that happens when they're there. And somebody asks just the best question, just like you have done just now. Do you realize the power and the wonderment of this question and how it fits into the body of work that we do? This is good stuff happening right here.